Hey guys, welcome back to Chris and Retro. Want to start off by, I guess I struck a chord with the video last night. I had different individuals think that video was made about them. So that video was not made about anybody in particular. That video was made about inventory, and the reason it was is because it struck home with me, and that the inventory subject is so important for our health in terms of how we look at the world around us and what our position is and what our role is. And I can tell you firsthand, and actually I've looked at other videos, and today actually I was screening through some interviews that I've done in the past, and the subject comes up every single time. And I talk about how I take other people's inventory and how debilitating it is for me when I focus on that type of thing. So, last night's video was a convicting video for me, based on, yes, some observations of people in my life that are struggling with it. Of course, I learn from other people all the time. But it's not punitive towards people. It's just noticing struggles that others have that I'm like, man, I can relate to that because I struggle with that too. So as you'll find with most of the content on here, I'm not really here to go whip sticks at people. The only time I've ever really gone after anybody is I went after stigma and how they treated my fiance as an EMT. That was about as attacking as you're ever going to see me on here, and I still hold to that. I felt like it was inappropriate and unprofessional. But beyond that, man, this is just a recovery journey. We're all fellow travelers, and the video, if it irritated a bunch of people, I had a comment on the comments. I've had personal interaction with people, and it was not directed at anybody. It was the subject obviously hits home. I've never had that much comment about a subject matter like that before, right off the gate. So clearly we all have that be an issue in our life, and that's why I did the video. Tonight I'm going to talk about another one that's all too common, and this is related to when all heck breaks loose in our recovery journey. Many of us have gone through seasons of things going really well. So we may have had a season where we did the whole burn the city down and everything sucked and everybody thought we were horrible, and for me there was the drunk, and for my fiance there's the junkie, you know what I mean? And so we all had these stages where we were known for that. There was other times we were known for other things. Like she was known for being on the US national ski team, and she was known for being an outstanding tennis player and having a very loyal father that taught her cool tricks with when to take the wax off the skis, and he'd string her tennis rackets and stuff. I mean, there was that cool father-daughter thing going. But then afterwards, she kind of burned that to the ground with her addiction. Same thing with me. I had a career before that was, well known, and people thought of me in a certain way. And all of a sudden alcohol started to take over, and I became this complete tool that everybody couldn't stand. Now, probably most people can't stand me today, but I'd like to think that a few more like me than they did then. But the point is we get to this place and all heck breaks loose, and we're known for our behavior in that place. So that's all they expect from us. That's all we expect from ourselves, honestly. But then some of us, the light comes on, and we have, long seasons of sobriety, and we climb out of that mess. And early on, it might be a couple months here, a couple months there, but we're doing all right. But we're still not quite removed from all the nonsense. And once in a while, things come back and bite us again. And, I've had a recent example with somebody in my life that's been bitten again. And so here's a couple of things I want to talk about that season and what's going on in our lives. We so desperately want to be trusted, and we so desperately want people to realize, especially if we've had a season of recovery, that it was just a screw up. But we're not in a world that really views us that way, especially if we've had an environment where that was what we were known for before. So now anytime you do it, that's all you are. That's all you're ever going to be. But for us, we're like, no, time out. This is part of my journey. This was a slip up. I'm going to be fine. I just need you to have faith in me for a little bit. And so what we run into is this cycle that says, I don't trust you, but I want you to trust me. And you're saying, I don't trust you because you're, an addict. Or if you go into a medical institution, God forbid, they're going to be like, oh, here comes the junkie, or here comes the drunk. And it doesn't matter who you are or what your background is. I've talked about this openly on the show. Sam is a high-performing real estate agent. She is a high-performing person. She's a straight-A student in college. She's an unbelievably smart and wonderful person to be around. But she's an addict. And then she struggles with those mental health issues, and she struggles with the addiction. But she walks into a hospital, all she is known for is that because of her chart. But they don't know the excellence that exists in her. They don't know exactly what she is. She's and what she presents to the world, but they always treat her like the lowest common denominator when she goes in because of her chart, not because of who she is. And for us, when we have these slip-ups, so to speak, slip-ups, and we're trying to get back in our life, and we don't want people to lose total faith in us, oftentimes those around us do. the screw up again, or maybe there's a pending charge because we've run out of our grace. I can tell you right now, for me, I'm at the month right now where I get to, after 7 years, reapply for or go back through this New York State and petition for my license, and hopefully reapply in May. I'm nervous about it. I don't have a lot of faith that this stuff is going to work out for me, because I don't. It doesn't seem to work out this way for me ever. But I'm hoping that the laws don't change and things work out for me, because it's going to be a huge help for my family. It's been a tough 7 years without a vehicle. But you know, but for me, anything that I do in that vehicle now is going to I have to be very careful with, my traffic tickets, stuff like that. I'm going to have to make sure that none of that stuff exists for me. So I'm going to have to be a very cautious driver. But if anything does happen, those pending charges can be so weighty, For me, family court, anytime I go to family court, it is so stressful for me, because I got to hear all over again about how much of a drunk I am. And it's just, you just get tired of it after a while, hearing about this type of thing, because you know that there's more to you, especially if you believe in your recovery journey. Continuing issues with family or continuing issues with relationships, those also can be very debilitating. And you just feel just this weight all the time, but in you, you want more and you're capable of more. So I'm characterizing something that I've seen in my life, and I've seen in others as well, when we're struggling and things just didn't work out right now. And it's just this one moment. So just move forward. So I guess, we're going to talk on another show later on tonight, but, I guess the thing that I continue to profess, and I would encourage you with this, and I'm only encouraging this because it's the only place I find hope a lot of times. There's so many freaking times in life that I just feel beaten up. I'll tell you what, the last 2 weeks, man, I felt beaten up, and I'm sober. I don't have any alcohol in me. I'm fine, but I am beaten up by what life's doing. And it just it always brings back, you're imposter, or you're not worthy, or, you're doing this wrong, or you're doing that wrong, knowing full well I'm living a quality life and I'm living good living. It's still that stuff comes in and beats you up all the time. And so what do you do with that? Well, for me, I make progress. Sometimes I close down, and it's not very friendly for those around me, but it's just a survival and coping mechanism. I'm not sure what yours is. I don't think isolation and necessarily doing things my way is the right way. Honestly, I'll tell you, your support systems don't really get the feedback they need to give you the energy you need. So when you shut down like that, it's real difficult for those that are supporting you. And I wouldn't encourage you to do it my way at all. And I'm trying to get better about it, but it definitely is hard for me. But the biggest thing is that whatever you have to do to make progress, show progress. If you're fearful of the next window you're going through, walk through fear. I promise you, sitting still is going to make that fear is not going away. It's not going to get any less. So move through it. As we've talked many times over on this show and on the other one we used to do on 100 Proof Living, fear is just a veil. It's a nothing thing. It's a vapor. It's your mind telling you the worst possible scenario in a situation that can happen, and many, 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 many times that worst possible. In fact, I would argue that most times that worst case scenario is nowhere near on the table and doesn't happen. Move through fear, keep making progress. And if you've got heavy, heavy stuff on you, and right now it feels like most of your life is out of control, for those of us that believe in a higher power, which I do, for those that are close to the AA community or any community that's a recovery community, if you're even in the Al-Anon community, if you're just on some other sobriety program, you want to make sure that you're clinging to your higher power as well, because it helps you deal with all these uncontrollable things. It's just, sometimes it just gets too much. I think of somebody I love very dearly that's going through just one heck of a time, and most of what she's dealing with right now is just not in her control, and it just sucks. And as a support system, you just want to take that pain, take that space, and help them move forward. But we have to recognize what these seasons do for us. There's a reason why we're being put in pause. I was talking to another friend of mine tonight, Brian, or texting a friend of mine tonight, Brian. He has a long-standing health issue he finally got fixed. He's had a long-standing a depression issue where he just couldn't figure out what he was doing. And all of a sudden he had a breakthrough. And all of a sudden the pieces start coming through. But he needed that season of time out to kind of cure him and help him course correct some things and attitudes and behaviors, and revitalize his focus on the things that he was made to be. And because of that, the outcoming of that was some really encouraging and motivating things in his life, including, getting some surgeries done that he needed to get done, as well as some work that he's now really excited about doing again. It doesn't matter. And he's not an addict. He has no addiction issues whatsoever. The principles still apply the same. So if you're finding these things, we're in these grave situations where you just everything's out of your control and it's just beating you up, especially if it's a situation where you are in recovery and it's a circumstance that's impacting your life in a way that's your reputation or possibly even your future. Don't take stock in all the things that aren't happening today. Take stock in what you can do today and move forward. Make progress. Move through the fear. Because I can tell you, one day of progress is going to give you a lot more energy than one day of sitting around worrying about the worst possible scenario. I can promise you that. And the only reason I can promise you that is because I've done both. I sat and I've whined. I've sat and isolated. I've sat and blamed other people. And I've also moved forward at times too, where I just plowed through. I said, that's it. I'm going. And usually what happens, I whine a little bit and I get afraid at first. And then I'm like, let's go. Let's go. But I've learned to kind of short that window up in the future because it just doesn't serve me well. Guys, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for tuning in. If you're struggling in a stage right now where you feel like things are all is lost, or you just screwed up one more time and nobody believes you and whatever, it's part of your journey. It just happens to be your specific journey. Figure out where things went sideways, unpack it, reverse engineer it back to where you started making decisions you shouldn't make, and figure out what you can do in those moments to not make those decisions again. If it's circumstances out of your control, figure out what environment you keep putting yourself in that seems to allow for these things to happen. There's always some element of your life that you can control. There's always some element that you can find some way to make progress today. And I would encourage you that that's a way for you to feel a little bit of hope tomorrow, even when all seems lost. Make some progress. Make some progress towards your goals and your objectives in life. Find out what you actually want to do. Maybe that's progress enough. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Please, between now and the next time we talk, stay out of trouble.